Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to On the Virtual Track. We've got episode 7. I'm James Parker, your host, and I'm going to be joined in this one by Mr. Dave Mull here as well. Dave, how are you, dude? How's it going?
Great. How are you?
Oh, mate, I'm wonderful. I do love things like this. You know what I mean? I think this is great fun. How's everything going with you in general?
Pretty all right. I mean, my back hurts because I'm old, but other than that,
Old. Dave,
yeah.
I'm old as well, mate. How old are you?
43.
See, I'm 47.
See, I knew you were somewhere in that range, but I had a feeling you had a couple steps, but yeah.
You know, I thought, actually, no, hold on. I'm 46, Dave. I'm not 47. I'm 46.
Oh, you got more time back. You got time back.
Yeah,
You're good.
I've gained a year. I'm well happy about that.
Yep.
No, I'm 47 in August, mate. So I do feel your pain. You know, you wake up every morning and then you're like, oh, that weren't there yesterday.
What I do wrong? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You got Easter holidays going on at the moment?
This weekend I think, yeah.
Yeah.
So not really sure what we're planning on that. We'll probably take the kid out, do something, chase eggs around or something silly.
Yeah, well, we can't do that. We're at a big drag strip this weekend, so we
Oh,
definitely
cool.
we ain't going to be doing. No, well, I don't know if they do Easter egg hunts or not. To be blatantly honest with you, this is the first time I've been up there for Easter, so we're going to find out whether or not they do. It'd be interesting if they stick one on the finishing line. Right, kids, there's an egg. Go get it. And there's a 300-mile-an-hour top fuel dragster coming at you. Go. see who gets there first. But there we go on that one. So, Dave, come on. Dude, we've got to we'll talk about it in general. Obviously, we know you're from tail racing, driving Nords consistently.
First interview from the tail racing crew.
Yeah, first one on the list. I know Dave's booked in at some point. I've got to check. I've got so many coming up as well. You know, how did Dave Mull get into all of this? You know, this is a world that you don't really know about, do you? So how did it all go from there?
So if we're talking about the sim racing journey, in a very similar place to where you started, I actually went up to the attic to find it.
Pole position.
Pole position.
Dude, have you got the Atari it goes in?
So this one wasn't actually on Atari. It was on the TI 99 4A. So this is a port. But I do still actually have the computer. It's up there. I don't think it still works, but I do have it.
Oh, dude, that would have been an absolute blast having a run around there, wouldn't it? Let's be real. I love pole position. Quality.
So had that for that, and then we always had computers, but eventually we got to the Nintendo Entertainment System, and there was a bunch of pole position clones on there, right? So you play like Rad Racer, or so there was one that was my favorite was it's called Formula One Built to Win, right?
Right.
So like I said, it was a pole position clone, but this one had like a career progression, and it had like you could modify the car. It had consumables, right? So you start off with a Mini Cooper, and you do a couple of races, and like you're trying to get a license to move up to the next group, and like you can change the body. You can go to fiberglass. You can put like racing slicks on it. You can put nitrous on it, and those things are consumable, like I said. So like when you get done with the races, whether you won or not, you still have to pay to put that stuff back in the car. And like all those things would have like wear on them, right? So like you just go through and like you're going all across the U.S. and like eventually you go to like Nevada and you can like gamble all your money away or like maybe hit it big because they have like like a slot machine. But like you move up to Vector W8, which I don't know if you're familiar, is this terrible American attempt at a supercar. And like big brawly V8 and like retro cassette futurism like dashboard with like crazy displays. It looked really cool. And a suspension that would have been out of date in the 1960s and an automatic transmission, so awful. Then Ferrari twin turbo 40, and then you go to the final road, and you graduate to Formula One, and it's Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost, and they're just kicking your ass, and like there's no chance to win anything after that. Great game.
It's one of them where you go, yep, made it.
Yeah.
Nope, not winning. See you later. Time to go.
Just trying to think through like other ones. Like big fan of the Wipeout series. Team Fizar all the way. And then like a couple other things. Like I started getting into like what was it, Formula One Championship Edition when the PlayStation 3 came out. Gran Turismo's obviously. Um, and then I was doing rental carts, with a couple of my friends, and end up getting deployed, come back, still doing rental carts, and then I started doing autocross because that was getting too goddamn expensive, and some of my friends had talked me into signing up for iRacing when the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
So I did the same thing everybody else did. Go on eBay, Craigslist, whatever, and picked up like G920 and the crappy pedals, and clamped them to the desk, and I hated, still hate the starter Miata, right? So I didn't actually get the road license right off the bat. I said fuck that thing, and I went over and started oval racing, and I started dirt racing and doing like the rally stuff, and like eventually like all my friends over here doing this, like all right, I got to at least get out of rookies. So did that. Um, moved into Formula Renault 2.0.
Yeah.
Amazing fucking car. Still love that thing. Um, and just kind of progress like that. But as at least of this generation, once you start getting into something, you start looking for other people that are into something, right? So like you start looking for podcasts. Um, so I had found the Everyday Racers podcast, and that's where I met Dave Hernandez and Dylan and a couple other guys over
Yeah.
there. And we ended up so what they used to do was they would take like old like forgotten series like GT1s and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and we would try to like say like a Friday night or something like that, everybody get on, have a couple beers, and we would try to make these races go official, because we just dropped like 6, 7, 8 guys in there and see if we could get something to happen. And eventually we ended up forming a league out of that, and it wasn't quite the same thing as what we do with Tail, but like every week it would be a different car, different track, different discipline, right? So like we're
Yeah.
racing ovals, we're racing dirt, all that stuff. um and I actually managed to win in that one time, but
Nice. Well done.
when those guys or the two guys that were hosting the podcast ended up quitting. I think the one guy moved overseas, and then the other guy did something or another, but like decided it wasn't worth it to him anymore. Um, that league ended up folding, right? And Dave had already had Tail up and running, so a lot of us came over, then.
Yeah.
And like in the original days, it was like two pieces, right? So like one, it was what it is now, where it's the ring and new cars every week, and then it was also running TCRs at like a whole bunch of different tracks, and like
Yeah.
that one was good too, but it ended up being not quite as popular, so we just focused in on just the Nordschleife portion of things.
It's amazing how something evolves from something else, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because you start off just meeting mates, and that's the thing when people have come up and said to me, "Oh, will you come and have a chat with us?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll come and do it." They're like, "So how did you get into commentary?" And I'm like, "Through the pandemic, it's not a fun story. It's quite boring. I have to be honest. But if you want to hear it, here it is." And this is the thing. I think this, when you get to this sort of environment of league racing, you all of a sudden develop this friendship with people that you didn't necessarily have before. And Dave Hernandez is in there, Dylan's in there, and everybody else is in there. And then you kind of grow the collective to an expansion to what it is now. I think it's like 23 of you in there doing the ring every time. Now, if people don't know at home, Dave Hernandez and Dave Mull here, they're part of the Tail Racing. Tail run basically the ring runners. What that is different variations on Nords with different cars every single week for a 12-week period. And then you have Duck Week, which is just a random free car and a random free track, which, as we know, Dave, could be anything.
Well, not random free track. It's still the Nordschleife.
No, still Nord. Sorry,
yep.
Yes, but
Yep.
a random car. Sorry.
Right. But yeah, no, and we always try to make sure that like it's all kinds of like different things. We try to make sure it's like it's a democratic process these days, but like early on, it was just like, what can we throw in here that's that's like crazy. Like we did the
Random.
LMP ones one time, and that was wild. Um, but like for for a while there, I was trying to get like like all the old retired cars that like people have like sitting in in the back
Yep.
somewhere. It'll just drag them out of there, and that ended up turning into a fiasco because I talked everybody into the Porsche roof pack, right? And the
Mm.
things are like, it was like $299, and I'm like, this is great. You get 4 cars for this price and all the other stuff. And like, we voted it in, and the week beforehand, I think iRacing's got a spy on us. Like the week beforehand, it went back to full price. I was like, oh no, I feel like an
No.
asshole because I got this thing voted in, and now But
What would you like to see run it that you don't run?
what you mean like from inside the?
From a car. What if you could put any car in there? What would you actually put in there that
Well, I mean,
doesn't run it normally?
out of the iRacing roster, I would really like to see F3s.
Nice.
That was kind of like you would. I don't really run officials that much anymore. Like between work and dad and all the other
Yeah.
stuff, I barely have time for the league. So, but when I did, F3 was my jam. So I would run the full season out of that. Great cars, got that perfect balance between power and aero. I really like aero
Yep.
cars. I think you guys have noticed that. Um,
I think there's something about certain open wheelers that gives you a certain sense of nostalgia, because randomly, I was just looking through my content while I was sat here, and randomly, that I didn't even know, I must have bought it at some point in my iRacing career because I thought it was cool. I own the McLaren MP430,
okay.
right? I don't think I've done a series with that in. I've got to be honest. And then if I've looked further down as well, there's things that I sit back and go, why have I got them? Why have I got these cars that clearly I've paid for? Because there's no other reason why I would have the McLaren MP430. Do you know what I mean? Let's put that out there.
Right.
Let's go do that. You know what I mean? And other things. I think for me, I'd love to see you guys try and attempt something different. Now, we obviously see a lot of the times you're doing
something different in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, like you've done the NASCARs, right? Mm-hmm. What about the trucks?
What, NASCAR trucks?
Yeah.
Oh man, you don't even know. I have. So one of the duck race options is the old Silverado, the 2008.
Right.
And I have been building setups for this car for probably about 3 years now. And I update it all the time, and everybody's in there in the duck race chat, and they're just like, no, please no, because it's been a finalist the last 2 times it's come up.
I'd love to see that car go Hurtley Man there, Dave. I think that would be mighty.
It would be murder.
Oh yeah, but it would be fun. That's the thing. You know what I mean? For some reason, I've got the freaking Legacy Riley MX Daytona prototype. I think I've driven it once, maybe some point.
So that one was part of a, I think it was like a sweeten the deal kind of package that they did during the pandemic. So you probably got that. You probably got Formula Mazda.
Probably,
yeah. Star Mazda and a couple other things popped up in there. I think like the old supercars.
I own so many cars, Dave.
Yeah.
I'm giving it. Cars and tracks. I kind of give up, and I sit back and I think I'm never going to ever drive any of these.
Yeah, right? I'm in the permanent bonus club too. So
yeah. I'm 40 in. Do you know what I mean? And you sit back and sometimes you just think, why have I got them? And then you realize that you're going to go to a track next week that somebody's put on a schedule that nobody's ever heard of, and you're going there for NASCAR ovals or something. It's very, very bizarre indeed. And that's, I think, gives us something to sort of sit back and marvel over, because there aren't many games. I'm going to call them games because that's practically basically what it is. There aren't many games where you can sit back and have all of this choice that we've got here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and don't get me wrong, there are a couple of series like Dirt that goes official, I don't know, barely once a day or whatever.
Fortnite.
It's something ridiculous, isn't it? You know what I mean? Let's be real about it. But if iRacing come to Dave Mull and said, right, Dave, you're going to have the option to put one car, one track in iRacing.
What's this question? All right. So I did say I was going to throw you for a loop on this. We haven't actually gotten to it in the conversation yet, but I am probably one of the first person you've interviewed that is a setup guy.
Okay.
And I always like to try to find a lot of correlation between, the sim and, like my real car or like other things, right? And
Okay.
I mean, there really isn't anything that's a good correlation for my car. I mean,
What car have you got?
so I have a 92 Corvette,
Okay.
base model, but it's got, coilovers and like humongous sway bars and like just tons and tons of suspension work on a thing and just monster 315 tires at, all four corners. And it's unbelievably good handling car. Probably, I mean, in terms of feel, like the Aston I drove this season felt a lot like it does. Um, but there's not a lot that correlates real good for that car. So like I said, I was gonna say, the Terrell or the P34, but when somebody else took that, I'm gonna throw it, I'm gonna come out of left field with this. So I would like to see basically like a blank sheet car, right? Like I want something with a completely open setup where like maybe I got like a drop down slider and I could choose like which wheels got the power and like how much the thing weighs and how much
Yeah.
it makes and like all this other stuff. Like give me all the buttons, whatever, so I can adapt it to literally anything out there, right? And obviously you wouldn't be able to drive this thing in competition, and I'd be willing to pay for like up to like $100 for this thing, because that would be an incredibly useful tool for me and what I'm doing outside of the sim, right? Or like
Okay.
if I'm trying to make a suggestion for setup for, one of my friends, in autocross or whatever, um, and like I wouldn't even care about like what the geometry of the thing looked like. It could be like a box, who cares?
So are we talking then that basically you would want just a bog standard clear frame, and then you pick to go everything in it?
Yeah.
Is that not like a Need for Speed concept on that one, where you pick a car and you change things around, or are we saying that would you work to any base? Would you work to a supercar base, an open wheel base, dirt base? What sort of, you're going to need a base, aren't you, Dave? Because they can't just chuck you something.
I feel like wheelbase would be like one of the options on the the thing. Like I mean, it's just like a really really long setup sheet where you can set up like all the particulars yourself. It would be really involved.
This just sounds like a 1,000-piece Lego set, Dave. I've got to be honest.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That you're going to try and put together and have a go at on that one. If though they gave you a track option, what track would you want?
Oh, I gotta double down on I can't remember his name right now, but Gaia Circuit or Macau. Absolutely.
Macau?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think for me, there's certain things within iRacing that don't last very long, right? And the W13 was one of them. It come out and they were like, yeah, and then everybody went to set up their Formula One season, and they couldn't because there wasn't half the tracks there to be able to set it up with, and I think if there was more Formula One based circuits that people could have, full F1 sort of loyalty almost, to the whole season, then more people would drive it. And I think for me, that's the problem with some of the series that are out there now, like the Dirt and things like that. Obviously, Dirt needs upgrading. We know the cars would be nice, and TCRs is another one where we could do with some newer cars and stuff like that, rather than the 16th GT3 that we've had. Don't. Dave, it's not even funny. It drives me absolutely bonkers.
I know. Trust me.
You know what I mean? You're sitting there with a list of things that you think they could improve on, and you get another.
I always pick the wrong one too. I have like a whole graveyard of GT3 cars that can't be driven anymore.
Dude, I own some, and that's the thing. The thing is, you go into it and you just sit there and go, I'm going to pick that, and I want that. For some reason, I bought the new Corvette, and I think I've only driven it twice. You know what I mean? It's just one of them things that you have good intentions for. But I think for me, if they did like a dedicated track per series, so a dedicated F1 circuit list and a dedicated dirt circuit list and stuff like that, you would be able to have a lot more people involved in it.
I could see that. I don't know. I don't get so hung up on like what the track is. It's just as long as it's like a fun track,
Dave, you drive Nords every single week, dude. How is that not driving you bonkers at some point?
I don't know. I love the track.
Well, I'll give you that one, dude. That's the thing. I think if anybody does want to get involved, it is different variations of Nord. So you've got the short, the VLN, and the stadium.
If you notice, the cars that I tend to have trouble with are usually like slower cars and like momentum things, right? So if it's something where like I have to like focus on it, at some point I'm just gonna get bored and fall off or crash or whatever, But like when it's a fast and difficult car, I'm usually towards the front. So
hey, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. But you've had your fair shares of tits and tats, though, haven't you? Within it.
Yeah. Oh, you guys haven't done this week yet, have you?
No, we haven't. We can't. We're gonna have to do it. As I've said to Ewan, that we'll catch up next week. Due to the fact that obviously I'm away this week and I'm trying to get ready with my boy and stuff like that for his junior drag biking. And that's what we've got coming up. So I'm away from tomorrow. So we're very stuck tight for time at the moment. But
understand.
It's life, isn't it, Dave?
Yeah,
Let's be real about
it. It is, absolutely.
We know that from our perspective and everything else as well. But I'd be interested to see how this season goes. There's a couple of cars I'm really looking forward to that I think coming up is going to be really, really interesting. I want to see the LMP2s, see how you guys go hurtling around the LMP2s. Now, the other one that got me a little bit excited is going to be the Pro 2 lights.
Yep.
Who put that on the calendar?
Okay, so the Pro 2 Light was the amateur win pick from last season. I believe Scott Sadler picked that.
Yeah. Why?
Just thought it was going to be funny. And we actually did run it in. So every week 13, we put together like a funny race, and this is usually something that I organize. So this just past season, we ran Pro 2 lights on Nordschleife, same kind of deal, but we did it fixed set, and there's not that much you can do. If you're trying to run that thing on like the road. I mean, you can change the like the gear reduction drive to like maybe go a little faster, but the things like it's fucking wet ass at like low RPMs.
I was going to say, Dave, you are not fucking flying in that machine, mate.
I think it gets to like 104 or 114 or something like that, maybe. But it's actually it's really funny because it's you get a draft on like the uphill section, going in towards carousel.
Carousel, yeah.
But on the dot, you're not because you're already there. You're already at the top speed. You can't use it. Yeah.
You can't go any
fucking faster. The only place anybody's going to be able to pass, in 2 or 3 weeks, whenever that is, it's pretty much going to be on the uphill. So it'll be fun to watch.
But is there more on the open that you can change though? I don't know if anybody's played with it, have they? Because you're open setups up to Duck Week, aren't you? So is there anything open on there that can be modified?
Well, I made the setup for the fixed setup, so like I said, there's not a whole lot left.
Is this going to favor? Is it favoring you, Dave?
I don't think so. Maybe. I don't know.
I know the thing is, I know some people that do setups, and I've met people across over the time, and they go, "Oh yeah, I'll give you a base setup," and you're like, "Okay, cool. What do I change then?" And because I have no idea, right? I don't know what makes me go faster. I don't know what makes me go slower. So I go, "What do I change?" And they go, "Well, just fiddle with it."
So
yeah,
so like I will always, if somebody is having an issue with the car or whatever, I'll try to ask them a couple of questions like what's the car doing, like what kind of characteristics are you getting, what do you want, right? Like how do you want like to enter the corner, how do you want it to exit the corner, like what's your driving style, and I can try to give you a couple of suggestions based off of that. Right now, I mean, naturally, if I'm making a setup, I'm going to try to tune it to the way I drive cars.
Of course.
And I don't know if you guys have ever twigged to this, I right foot brake.
Do you?
Yeah, I think me and Pat, and I think we're the only two that do it. Not LaBrosse.
Right foot.
Yeah, right foot. Yeah.
So
So
you come off the accelerator, place your right foot onto the
onto the
brake.
brakes. Yeah.
No, I don't do that.
Yeah. So in Pat's case, I think he had like some sort of an injury that caused him to start doing that. In mine, I got clown feet. So
Bloody
I
size
wear
are they?
it's a US 13 wide. So I can't.
What is that in UK?
Oh shit.
Hold on, don't worry, Dave. I've got Google to hand. I've always got Google to hand.
Right.
So 12 and a half. Dave, I've got size 8.
Size 8.
I got like baby feet, bro.
Okay.
Like, you know what I mean? I don't think I was blessed when I with big feet.
I don't think it's I don't think it's necessarily a blessing, but like I have tried to left foot brake, in real cars. Like I used to have a Fiesta and couldn't do it. Like my foot can't come across because I'm banging off of the steering column, and there's no chance in hell in the Corvette. I barely fit in the damn thing anyway.
Yeah.
The whole car was designed on cocaine. Like there's
no. Was it designed for short midget people, Dave, as well?
I would say probably like a 5'6" guy would probably fit in there real good. I'm more like I'm more like 6'1". So.
Yeah, I would say I'm 6'1", but apparently my doctor told me I was shrunk 3 centimeters last year. So clearly I'm not fucking 6'1" anymore.
I remember you saying something other about that during, I think it was the ARX-01?
Probably. Yeah, this is the thing. Me and you and do go off on our random fucking tangents at times. We end up talking random crap, and and we're sitting there laughing between us. And I think that's the thing. But what makes Dave Mull tick outside of iRacing? What have we got going on in the background, Dave, that gets you excited?
All right, so I am U.S. Army retired. So I was, combat arms for 20 years. I am a machinist. So I work the overnight on that, which is fun because I get to be around, all day to hang out with my son, do good shit with that. Like I said, I autocross. Still do a little bit of like rental kart racing. We were just out, on Saturday, and so Evan autocrosses with me in the real world. And that's actually how he ended up joining the league, is because I brought him over. And he got tangled up with somebody else in one corner because he was having a little trouble getting around him, and they both went wide, and I'm like, this belongs to me. I went right at the inside.
Don't tell me what happened, David. That was this week's, mate. Go blind.
Oh no, that was us racing karts on.
Okay.
But he still gets me by like 800s at the end of the lap. I was like, I can't win. Ever with this guy.
You just gotta fucking take him out, Dave. Take him out. That's just easier.
Listen, I know I got the reputation of being a bully and like a good defender and all that stuff. I'm not trying to do all that.
The thing is, you're just out there, David. That's the thing on that one. So, what keeps you busy during the day, then? What do you get yourself into?
Well, like I said, if kids at school, I'm probably at sleep. If not, we'll go do like playgrounds or something like that. Whatever.
Yeah.
But
also, you said machinist. What do you mean by machinist?
I cut metal. No.
The thing is, you make that sound like so obvious. Like, James, why don't you fucking know this? Like, you know what I mean, dude? Like,
Hang on. One second. Hang on.
Oh, I've never had somebody run out on me before. You know what I mean? It's gone. Is he coming back?
I'm best with like visual representations of things. So I make stuff, right? So like this is a plate.
Okay. Yeah.
That is eventually going to be a dual brake master for the Corvette, and this.
See, that makes it so much easier, Dave.
Yeah. Right.
I make shit. What have it been fine?
Shit. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So this is a torque or a brake pedal multiplier. So I'll be able to convert it to basically fully manual. So like taking all the power out of the brakes, and it'll go from 4-to-1 ratio to 8-to-1, and then I'll be able to change the master sizes. I'll have a balance bar on there. It'll be really cool setup. if I ever have time to finish working on it.
Is that something that you've always been, Dave? Have you always been a petrol head kind of esque person?
Oh yeah. No, I was. So really, it starts with my mom. Like she, she always had this story where like, her dad used to have this LTD in the 70s, right? And like she got, her license, and like the second she did, her brother starts like, "Oh, Dad, we should sell the Ford. We should get this fucking, this Triumph, TR7, or not TR7. It was a six, the little 6-cylinder inline. Yeah.
Right.
It's like we should get this, and like not talking about how it's a manual, because he's thinking like, mom's never going to be able to drive it because of that. So she gets her license, forces him to learn how to drive stick, and she's out there like racing people in like MGs and shit. But like she was always buying me like Hot Wheels cars and crazy shit like that. So yeah, ever since high school, we used to go down to the local drag strip, doing stupid things on the street.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. And then I was a driver for most of my career with the Army, or at least the early part, anyway. So M1 tanks, 1,500 horsepower, 72 tons.
Yeah.
And then after about 5 years, I switched over to being a cavalry scout. So, I wasn't necessarily driving anymore because I was, commanding the things. But like usually, I was like the recovery guy. So somebody gets stuck, I'm over there, hooking up all the cables and being like, all right, you put this and that, and you need to be in low gear. Yeah, that kind of deal. But like, I think I have to go back a little bit. Like, yeah, I blew up an engine living in the barracks, so like I got, poor again. So obviously, you can't just buy a new car or just give it to a shop. So like, I rebuilt the thing. I'm keeping it in the, the barracks. I don't know. Yeah, but no, I've pretty much always been gearhead. So.
Yeah. What was your first car you owned? Can you remember?
Dodge Daytona.
Well, if you're going to go fucking straight in, you might as well go for something like that. Fucking hell. Mine was a little fucking Ford Orion. You know what I mean? It was a little...
Okay.
It didn't really go. It made all the noise, but it didn't go very far. I remember having an RS 2000
cool.
as well. Yeah, well, it was until I fucking crashed it, didn't I crashed into a little Fiat Punto.
Oh no.
Who unfortunately decided it would be a good idea to pull across the road at me, and I fucking hit him, and then I hit him again, and I made his Punto go like a fucking hovercraft.
Oh no!
All four wheels were tucked like up here, and it's one of them moments where you get out the car and you're fucking like that, and then he gets out the car and he's just still fucking growing. You're like, oh shit. I mean, he must be about 6'7". I think the question was, how the fuck?
I was going to say out of a Punto. That'd be really funny, dude. In a different situation.
How the fuck he got in there? I do not know, but he got out and he was a tall one. I think this is the thing for us. There's always, I find when I talk to people, there's always been a natural journey. There's always a natural journey into sim racing or into racing outside of the sort of the sim racing world, and I find that a lot of people that have got such different broad spectrums of stories, but they all result coming back sooner or later that somewhere along the line your parents have played a part in it. And is that how it's been for you in conjunction with your journey?
I think so. So we didn't really have like cable and stuff, so like we couldn't watch all that much in the way of racing on TV. Indy 500, and I think I want to say Stacy Stotts last week was the name?
Stacy.
Yeah. I think she mentioned Rick Mears. That was my guy back in fucking 80s.
Yeah, she met him. Her dad was a
Jealous. Yeah.
Her dad was a snap-on mechanic and used to go around the racetracks with her.
Yeah.
I could have talked to Stacey for fucking God knows how long. So I would have loved to have heard more about it, but unfortunately we didn't quite get the timing. Yeah, and I said to Stacey, we'll have to get you on for an extended version.
But that's who I'm always thinking about when I see like those classic red and white Marlboro liveries. I'm not really thinking about McLarens. I'm thinking about that old Chevy. But so we used to have like locally to us in like the 1980s, and it was probably not anything special, but like it was like a little like go-kart and arcade place called the Malibu Grand Prix, and like they had like two different tracks, like one for like adults and like one for like kids, and like
Mm.
paved track, and like it did like the whole 9 yards looked really cool, and like they give you like a little like license. Um, and then like on the adult side, if you could beat a certain time, they had like a club car, maybe probably had like another 10 horsepower on it that lets you drive. Um, and that place stayed open until probably 98, something like that. And like I loved going over there, and
Mm.
they would take us, and I probably wasn't very fast, but I had a good time, and do that and play some arcade games and go stare at the Skip Barber poster on the wall and be like, man, I wish I had money to go do that.
Mm. That's the thing. I think obviously I've got kids, and my boy is 14. No, hold on, I better make sure I get that fucking right. Otherwise, I was going to kill it. Yeah, he was 14 in February. Look, Dave, I've got
Well, it's
5
okay to
kids.
get
All right?
yours wrong as long as you get those okay.
Dave, I got 5 kids. I have to write them all
Oh,
down,
God bless.
and I've got grandchildren as well now.
Oh,
But
jeez.
this is the thing. I think for me, when we've always been kind of that way orientated, where we will always look into something. When like I've had fucking random requests of American football from a middle child, and that's fucking 3 hours that way for me to go and get him to the nearest one, and and all this. And my son said about go karting, and we were looking into it, and you price it all up, and you're thinking, fuck me. Like, that's going to cost you like 30 odd grand for the first season, and it was only by chance that we picked up, spoke to somebody up at Santa Pod, drag strip, and we spoke about junior drag bike racing. And he was like, dude, you probably get the whole season done, 5 grand all in with your bike. And I'm like, okay,
It's a
all
deal.
right. That's a fucking deal. I can do that. You know what I mean? So now we're on this fucking drag bike journey, and we're going up there this weekend for their main summer event. And they've got top fuel dragsters going up there and rocket cars going off that shake the shit out of you. And this is it. This is how this thing starts. But I think the natural stigma of motorsport is it's too fucking expensive.
Yeah.
Even entry level, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
crazy money.
So around us, I think the cheapest thing. So the drag strip's long gone. That got sold and destroyed years ago. But we still have 2 dirt ovals and an asphalt third mile track. So I think if you were racing like little 4-cylinder bang bangers, like you could get in there for probably about $2,000 or so.
Has that never interested you? Have you never
it
thought about
does. It does. But every time I mentioned it or brought it up, or the announcer said something or other about it, the wife starts punching me. So
I did. This is the thing with me. It's quite interesting because my wife works a lot of weekends anyway, being a hairdresser and stuff. And I was talking to her about it, and she was like, is this for you or him? And I was like, well, I ain't riding the fucking bike, come on. You know what I mean? Let's be real. It's a fucking junior kid's bike. I'm not riding it. Because for an adult's bike, you're looking north of 20 grand.
Sure.
Just for the bike.
Yeah.
Right? Mind you, you're doing 200 mile an hour in about 4 seconds. It's fucking lunatic. So when I said to her about it, she was like, okay. All right. So what do I need to do? I was like, fuck all. And she was like, what do you mean? I said, right, I've got the bike coming. I've just gone and got the caravan, by the way. We've got to go and pick it up later. She was like, what the fuck? Before you know it, she's got all
the
this
strategy. Yeah.
Yeah, I just did it all in one go, Dave, because I've had, if I just did it all at the same time, we were going to be all right. And then as I say, we've got 4 days away this week, so that's fucking epic as well. But I think something like what you've got, for America, and it seems to be the same thing when I spoke to Stacey and Al Corey, you've all got racetracks in and around you. UK, we don't have dirt, we don't have, I think there's grass tracking somewhere if I fucking really looked into it. But do you not sort of sit back and think, come on, wifey, we can do this. Let Papa go race.
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like I think that would be a lot of fun, but I think that would be a lot of fun later on too. like assuming that stuff still exists, like whenever Logan gets old enough to drive, maybe we build up 2 cars and, go do it then. I
Is that
don't
like,
think I'm going to be giving up, driving anytime soon. So,
uh, not secretly at all, Dave?
uh,
Secretly?
secretly? No.
Yeah, not. Is she stood near you, Dave? Is that why you're saying no?
No. She's at work right now. But I mean, I'm actually having quite a bit of fun doing, the autocross schedule.
Yeah.
And there's some extension out of that. So we have, the autocross runs on Sundays. Saturdays they sometimes have track sprint, which I haven't usually had the time to do. But that's like, less cones, more speed.
So what do you mean autocross? Explain it for us British that don't have this over here. I don't
Okay.
think we have it.
So autocross is basically like think about it
Oh,
like a solo rally stage, right? So like it's no wheel to wheel racing, right? And
yeah,
it's a course that's made up of gates of cones and slaloms also built out of cones, right? So you'll have a like a timed start
yeah,
and the finish, and your time is as you go through the course is what you're compared to other cars with.
yeah,
And if you miss an element, that run doesn't count. If you hit a cone in the course of the thing, that's like in a plus 2 seconds, for
yeah.
every cone you hit. Um, but it's really cheap. I think registration for weekends like $50, for me. And like if I'm not counting tires, like maybe I spend like $400 or $500 a year, whatever.
Yeah. Let me just share my screen because I think I
Yeah.
may have actually just found a video, believe it or not. We do it over here in the UK. I didn't realise that was an actual thing, but it's something like this
Okay, so
that
that
we've got. This is a variation of it.
that's rallycross.
Well, it says autocross.
Uh,
You want to argue with them, Dave? You go ahead.
I mean, that's the definition. All right.
You want to argue? You carry on, mate. But this is what we have now. I think the other thing we've got that you might be mentioning is we've got point to point racing.
Right.
So basically, people do it on motorbikes generally. I think as well. I don't really think I've seen much people do it on cars, and they literally go from one, like you said, like a rally stage into that. What car do you drive doing it? Are you on a drive or are you on a bike?
So I'm in my my Corvette for that.
You take your Corvette racing.
I do. I actually purpose built it. So here, let me boop, 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 boop. There's a link.
Remember that. Oh, is this you?
That's me.
Oh, Dave, we're gonna put you out there.
Do it.
Let's have a look. Right, hold on, guys, as well. Give me 2 seconds just to share my screen. If you are on Spotify and you wonder what the hell's going on, we're just looking at Dave racing at the moment. Maybe we should post the videos really on Spotify so you can have a look. But this is what Dave does in his Corvette.
All right. So if you see the cones laying down, that's a pointer cone, and it tells you which side of the element to be on. Right.
Right.
So if it's pointing to the right, I need to be the right of that cone. And we get up to probably about, I think this one I got up to about 75.
Yeah.
It's surprisingly like it's low impact on the car sliding here. But it's really involved, and like the runs probably only last you about 5 or 6 minutes, and it's outside of that it's like a car meet, like you're hanging out with your friends, you're bullshitting, you're watching like a whole bunch of other cars running by, like it's a really good time.
And how much? Do you break the car? Has there been moments where you're sitting back and you're thinking, "Fuck, my wheel's just gone that way, and I'm still turning left"?
So that car has come home on the trailer 2 out of the last 3 years. So in the summertime we do a double event. So it's I'm actually wearing the shirt from it right now. It's called Battle at the Bay.
Yeah.
So it's Saturday and then Sunday, and usually there's like an extra like team, kind of deal of it,
Yeah.
so it's like 4 or 5 of you like form up a team, and then they got like some sort of silly theme going on, um but like the aggregate of like all your scores is like how all the teams are judged.
Yeah.
Um, Let me think. The first time I actually had the feed pipe from the fuel pump to the car blow out on the highway driving home.
Right. Okay.
So just all of a sudden, like the car kept running, but it didn't have enough pressure to actually like keep driving.
Yeah.
So it had to get towed for that one. And then last year, I have C5 Corvette front brakes on it, um, and the driver's side front, the threads gave out. So
Yeah.
we just hammering on the brakes so hard, the threads actually ripped out of the thing. So it wasn't safe to drive it home on
Yeah.
three
No.
calipers. I'm not going to do that. So we towed it home from that one. Um, Other than that, that car's been pretty good. Like the Fiesta never gave me any trouble, you know,
Hmm.
like that. So
Yeah, I think it's very interesting when you hear people's different forms of journeys into things and how things work out. And I find it fascinating that when you're talking to people, you can hear how excited they get about what they do,
mhm.
And I've spoken to lots of people, and over the last, what have I been doing this for now? Where am I? 2025, 4 or 5 years now, and I find it very interesting that you can hear some people when obviously because a lot of people don't know, like we don't know what you look like. Most people don't even have a fucking clue what I look like. And I talk to people through Discord, but you can hear just how happy they are when they've gone and won the race or something like that. And I
Mhm.
think that's where a lot of the excitement comes from for racing in general. But if you sat back now and you thought, okay, where am I going here on my racing journey? Where does Dave Mull see himself going forward in 5 years?
uh, Probably be about the same place, to be honest. Um, so like when I was a kid, uh, like my dad was in the military too, right? And he
Mm,
had like his diploma from West Point, like a couple other things up. Um, and like I was around, the military like the whole time growing up, right? So kind of felt like it was kind of like a natural progression where it's like, when I got of age, I kind of wanted to do that, right? And if that's what Logan ends up wanting to do, I'm not gonna dissuade him in that. But I would rather him grow up around other things, right? So I started getting into, doing this. And I got like a whole stack of, silly trophies that, from doing the seasons that we're gonna have up, and he can go look at those. At some point, he gets a little bit older. We'll start bringing him out so he can, watch all the cars go. Start taking him to the go kart tracks, things like that. And I'm not gonna force it, but I I want him to have something to look at. So
mm,
in 5 years, I expect that I'm still going to be doing the same kind of stuff. I'm still doing it for me. This is what I enjoy doing. This is what I want to do. But I want to give him an example of something else. You know?
hmm Yeah, I think that's the thing is that he's always trying to give, you know, like when I was growing up, I remember saying to my dad, like, I want to do motocross.
Hmm.
And his philosophy, his response was, well, if you haven't got the money, you can't do the motocross. And we ain't got the money. And I was like, thanks.
Yeah.
So, Dad, can I do football? Yes, you can have a £20 pair of football boots. There you go. Thank you very much. So off I did. My fucking youth was spent doing football. Fuck me up.
Right.
My
Right.
knees
Right.
pay
Right.
for it. Pay for it now, but that was about it. But Dave, it's been absolutely amazing to talk to you. If you could give just one final question for me, if you can give somebody any form of advice in life, um, what would you say to them?
Just get out there and do it, man. Like, I mean, if there's something you're interested in, just figure it out. Jump in.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. I think that just about sums this one up. It's been great having a chat with Dave Mull. It's been always a pleasure having a good old combo with somebody that you know, but you've never ever spoken to generally.
I mean, we had typed back and forth on the Discord and stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, we definitely did on that one. This one will go live out on YouTube on the 22nd. Guys, I've got somebody from J2ICS next week as well. Charles Coroner is coming on to join me for another episode as well. That'll be episode 8. And I've just looked on the responses and I've had 4 more join in as well. So at the moment, we're up to 70. So if you don't mind waiting until 2026, then you can fucking join. I don't know. All links down here below, guys. As per normal, if you want to get yourself involved, you can do as well. But I've been James Barber. I've had a great time talking to Dave Mull here as well. And as always, we'll catch you on the next one. Good night.